Odesa port goes dark. Cruise missiles incoming from the Black Sea. Ukraine's grain gateway burns. This is July 19, 2023. One day after Russia exits the grain deal, the retaliation begins now. Kalibr missiles launched from Russian frigates 200 kilometers offshore. Flight time, 11 minutes. Target: Odesa's export terminals holding 60,000 tons of wheat destined for Africa and Asia. Air raid sirens scream across the city. Civilians run for shelters. Port workers abandon cranes and loading equipment. Ukrainian air defense systems track multiple contacts. S-300 batteries engage. Interceptors launch from 3 positions around the port district. 4 missiles destroyed mid-flight. 3 breakthrough. Impact. Grain silos explode in massive fireballs. Secondary explosions as stored wheat ignites. Flames visible for 40 kilometers. This is not random destruction. This is economic warfare. Russia striking the infrastructure that feeds 400 million people globally. Welcome to Black Sea Doctrine, where maritime power decides who eats and who starves. The attacks continue for 72 hours straight. Night after night, Russian warships position themselves in international waters, beyond Ukraine's coastal defense range, just close enough to launch. Kalibr cruise missiles, subsonic, sea-skimming, hard to detect until final approach. Each missile costs $1.5 million. Russia fires 23 missiles over 3 nights targeting Odesa, Chornomorsk, and Mykolaiv. Ukrainian forces intercept 16. 7 reach their targets. Damage assessment: 3 grain terminals destroyed, 2 bulk carriers damaged while docked, port railway infrastructure hit, 1 civilian apartment building struck, killing 4 residents. The message is clear. Russia will not allow Ukrainian grain exports without its control. 1 sea, 1 maritime choke point. Would you risk your cargo ship in these waters? The economic impact spreads instantly. Global wheat prices jump 8% in 48 hours. Insurance rates for Black Sea shipping increase by 500%. Major shipping companies suspend all Black Sea operations. Maersk pulls out, MSC follows. The alternative Ukrainian corridor along Romanian and Bulgarian territorial waters becomes the only option, but it is slower, more expensive, and limited in capacity. African nations dependent on Ukrainian wheat face immediate crisis. Egypt imports 80% of its wheat from the Black Sea region. Somalia, Yemen, and Sudan watch their food security collapse. The World Food Program warns of catastrophic shortages within 60 days. This is what choke point warfare looks like. Control the sea, control the grain, control geopolitical leverage. Black Sea Doctrine has been tracking this strategy since Russia withdrew from the grain initiative. The pattern is deliberate. Attack ports during loading operations. Maximum economic damage. Minimum military risk. Russian Black Sea Fleet operates with near impunity from Sevastopol. 3 frigates rotate patrol duty: Admiral Grigorovich, Admiral Essen, Admiral Makarov. Each carries 8 Kalibr missiles. Submarines provide additional strike capability. Kilo-class diesel submarines lurk beneath the surface, harder to track, harder to target. They launch from submerged positions and disappear. Ukrainian intelligence reports submarine activity 150 kilometers south of Odesa during the July strikes. Likely candidate: Rostov-on-Don or Krasnodar. Both carry Kalibr missiles. Both operate from Sevastopol. The underwater threat complicates Ukrainian defense planning. You can shoot down cruise missiles in flight. You cannot easily stop a submarine from launching. Ukraine's response evolves rapidly. Air defense networks densify around port cities. Additional S-300 and Buk M1 systems deployed. NASAMs provided by NATO allies arrive in theater. Radar coverage improves. Interception rates climb from 60% to nearly 75% by August 2023, but 25% still get through, and 25% of 20 missiles means economic catastrophe. Who controls the Black Sea? A. Russia. B. Ukraine and NATO. C. Turkey holds the key. Comment your answer. Meanwhile, shipping companies make impossible calculations, risk versus profit. A bulk carrier carrying 25,000 tons of wheat generates $800,000 in shipping fees for a Black Sea run. War insurance now costs $400,000 per voyage. Profit margin collapses. Some captains refuse to sail regardless of payment. Others take the risk. On July 24, 2023, a Liberian-flagged bulk carrier named Sormovsky receives missile warning while docked at Chornomorsk. Captain orders immediate departure. Ship pulls out with only 60% of intended cargo. Ukrainian pilot still aboard. Rushes toward Romanian waters at maximum speed. No missiles fired. But the terror is real. The ship never returns to Ukrainian ports. The psychological warfare works as intended. Russia does not need to sink every ship. Just create enough fear to stop traffic. Port revenues for Odesa collapse by 80% in 3 weeks. Ukraine loses $2 billion in grain export revenue in 1 month. Agricultural producers across Ukraine cannot sell their harvest. Farmers face bankruptcy. Rural economy craters. This is the strategic purpose behind every missile strike. Destroy Ukraine's economic sustainability. Force capitulation through financial pressure. But Ukraine adapts. Alternative export routes through Romania, Poland, and the Danube River expand. Land corridors increase capacity. European Union opens rail freight routes. Grain begins moving again, but at reduced volume and higher cost. But what happened during the September 13th Sevastopol raid shocked naval commanders. Ukrainian forces struck back directly at the source. Maritime drones and missile strikes hit Russian naval infrastructure in Crimea. Shipyards damaged, dry docks destroyed. 2 vessels severely damaged, including the submarine Rostov-on-Don. The same submarine suspected in earlier Odesa attacks. The tactical message, you strike our ports, we strike yours. Asymmetric warfare reaches naval equilibrium. Russia continues port strikes but with reduced frequency. The cost-benefit calculation changes when your own infrastructure burns. Black Sea Doctrine analyzed the evolving naval balance. Neither side achieves dominance. Russia controls deep water and projects power through cruise missiles. Ukraine controls coastal approaches and strikes with drones and anti-ship missiles. Stalemate with economic devastation as the only guaranteed outcome. International pressure builds on both sides. Turkey proposes revised grain corridor agreements. The United Nations mediates. Russia demands sanctions relief in exchange for safe passage guarantees. Ukraine refuses to accept Russian veto power over its exports. Negotiations stall. The missiles continue. October 2023 brings renewed strikes, this time targeting port fuel storage. Massive fires in Odesa as petroleum reserves ignite. Black smoke visible from space. Environmental disaster compounds economic damage. Oil slicks spread across coastal waters affecting fishing industries. The Black Sea ecosystem suffers collateral damage. November sees tactical shift. Russia begins targeting grain ships in transit, not just ports. On November 3, 2023, the Panamanian-flagged vessel Joseph is struck by missile fragments while sailing the Ukrainian corridor. No casualties, but significant damage. Ship forced to dock in Romania for repairs. This represents dangerous escalation. Attacking vessels in international waters risks broader conflict. NATO monitors the situation closely. Alliance debates responses. United States deploys additional reconnaissance aircraft. P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol planes track Russian naval movements continuously. Intelligence sharing with Ukraine improves. Ukrainian forces receive real-time data on Russian ship positions and launch patterns. Targeting becomes more precise. December 2023 marks 1 year of sustained port warfare. Odesa has endured over 140 missile strikes. Air defense forces have intercepted more than 400 incoming threats. 7 port workers killed, 19 injured. Infrastructure damage exceeds $1.2 billion, yet grain exports never fully stop. Reduced volume but persistent flow. Ukrainian resilience frustrates Russian strategy. The port city refuses to surrender its economic lifeline. Is this pushing NATO closer to direct involvement? Comment Y or N. The strategic implications extend beyond Ukraine. Every maritime nation watches this conflict. The precedent is clear. Economic infrastructure is a legitimate military target in modern warfare. Ports, grain terminals, shipping lanes, all vulnerable to long-range precision strikes. Insurance industries recalculate risk models globally. What happens if similar tactics apply to other choke points? The Strait of Hormuz, the Malacca Strait, the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal. Global trade depends on maritime security. The Black Sea becomes the laboratory for 21st century naval warfare. Traditional surface combatants matter less than missiles, drones, and asymmetric tactics. Ukraine proves that coastal defense can neutralize larger fleets through unconventional methods. Russia demonstrates that cruise missile campaigns can achieve economic effects without risking major warships in direct engagement. Both lessons reshape naval doctrine worldwide. By January 2024, patterns stabilize into brutal routine. Russia strikes every 7 to 10 days. Ukrainian air defense responds. Some missiles intercepted, some get through, damage repaired, operations resume, the cycle repeats. Neither side can force decisive victory at sea. The Black Sea remains contested space where both powers bleed economically. Grain prices normalize slightly as markets adapt to reduced Ukrainian exports. Other suppliers increase production. Global food system absorbs the shock but remains fragile. One more supply disruption could trigger crisis. The vulnerability is permanent now. February 2024 sees attempted negotiations for humanitarian shipping corridors, proposals for inspected civilian vessels with international observers. Russia conditionally agrees, then withdraws, citing security concerns. The diplomatic theater continues while missiles fly. Odesa adapts to war economy. Underground grain storage facilities constructed. Dispersed terminals reduce vulnerability to single strikes. Port operations shift to nighttime to complicate targeting. Innovation born from necessity. Ukrainian engineers develop rapid repair protocols. Damaged infrastructure restored within 72 hours. Mobile air defense systems relocate constantly to avoid Russian anti-radiation missiles. Cat and mouse game plays out above port skies nightly. The human cost often overlooked in strategic analysis. Port workers continue operations despite constant danger. Truck drivers deliver grain under missile threat. Sailors crew vessels knowing they may face attack at sea. Economic survival demands these risks. Families depend on port wages. National economy requires grain exports. Fear becomes normalized. Sirens are routine. This is life on the front line of maritime warfare. What breaks next? The grain deal, Turkish neutrality, or Russian deterrence? The question haunts every analysis. Black Sea Doctrine examines 3 scenarios. First, complete collapse of grain exports forcing Ukrainian agricultural sector into crisis. Second, Turkish closure of Bosporus and Dardanelles under Montreux Convention escalating to NATO-Russia confrontation. Third, Ukrainian strikes finally neutralize Russian Black Sea Fleet capabilities, enabling unrestricted shipping. Each outcome reshapes regional power balance. Each carries global consequences. None can be predicted with certainty. The only constant is continued conflict. Trade routes, missiles, and war. Black Sea Doctrine. Will grain exports resume at pre-war levels? Can Ukraine protect its ports indefinitely? Will Russia escalate to attacking NATO-escorted vessels? These questions define the next phase of Black Sea maritime warfare. The answers determine security for hundreds of millions globally, economic stability for Eastern Europe, NATO's credibility as security guarantor, no small stakes for one contested body of water. Subscribe to Black Sea Doctrine, where Black Sea power decides everything.